Is Rick McCallum coming back to Star Wars? What's going on, Bombad fam? It's your boy, Scotty Jarrow. Super excited to be here. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of this video, I want to say a couple of things. Every Monday, Hyperfocus with Jerry Cable. It's a great conversation show where you can come and join the conversation as well. Every Wednesday, Bombad Gaming with me, Scotty Jarrow. I play video games you watch. You can come hang out. And every Thursday, the Bombadcast, the bread and butter of this page. Great, deep conversations and often very fun conversations about Star Wars as well. But let's get into it. Rick McCallum coming back, right? I know it sounds crazy, but you got to hear me out. I was doing some digging on YouTube, and I may have discovered a secret nugget. But for those who do not know, Rick McCallum was the producer for all three Star Wars prequels, the special editions, and the Indiana Jones, the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. So he worked on a lot of George's stuff. He kind of brought all of George's dreams and ideas to fruition. He's the one that allowed it to happen. And I don't know if you know this, but back in the 70s and the 80s, Fox, who were producing the Star Wars films, made it very, very difficult to do exactly what George wanted due to budgetary, budget concerns and the fact that, some of this stuff was very ambitious. But Rick, in the 90s, in particular, The Phantom Menace, was a yes man. He gave George everything he wanted in terms of production, but also in terms of the fact that it was George's vision. That's why The Phantom Menace is the most pure Star Wars. George was not told no at all. He funded the entire thing himself. It is the biggest independent film of all time. All of that being said, Rick was George's right-hand man. Where George was kind of timid and kind of quiet, Rick was the more, I guess you could say, strongly opinionated one. He was always be the person to kind of push through and make things happen for Lucasfilm. Fast forward a little bit. They made a movie called Red Tails, which is a wonderful movie about the Tuskegee Airmen that deals a lot with race. It deals a lot with these fighter pilots that were, fighting during World War II that were all African-American. And then the next big project for Lucasfilm was going to be Star Wars Underworld, which I have some footage for you right here. Now, some of you may have seen this. This came out on YouTube about a year ago from this recording, and it is footage that was like a test footage for the show. I don't know if Rick McCallum had his hands in all of this right here, but he definitely helped George push through and make this show a possibility. This show ever released? No, it did not ever release, but the interesting thing about this show comes down to the fact that there were 100 scripts written, and Rick McCallum was the producer of all of these, obviously, what was supposed to be the first live-action Star Wars show. So, here we are. The year is 2021, and I may have unearthed some interesting things. After Rick McCallum's silent departure from Lucasfilm, he has been very quiet in terms of how he feels about Star Wars, things dealing with Star Wars, but we know he had put a lot of work into certain things before he left. So I was going through the internet, I was watching all kinds of Rick McCallum interviews, and I saw one that was posted recently, okay? The first footage I'm going to show you is from 2017. The footage was posted in 2017, and it's someone interviewing Rick McCallum about Star Wars after he had departed, 5 or 6 years later, asking him about episode 7. And some of his responses were very interesting. And I will say this too, before I run this clip, Rick, a lot like George, was always pushing the digital technology. He was fine that George shot all of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith on digital cameras. This was a game changer. Rick was also really big in the fact that he helped make the special editions, which were digital changes to the original trilogy, which is a big deal. So Rick was always trying to give George exactly what he wanted, which is great. George Lucas has an incredible vision. Now, something came up recently. He still lives in Prague, and in this footage I'm about to show you, he's at, I believe, some British a premiere for some British film. But right here is a clip from that.
And what do you think the future of the Star Wars franchise is?
I think it's going to be huge. I think under Kathy Kennedy's realm, it's just going to keep going and get better and better and better. So I'm really excited about watching what she does and watching what happens. But it's all great because it's another generation. I did 1 or 2 generations, and she gets to take it on until she passes it over to somebody else.
See, says nothing at all that is negative about Kathleen Kennedy. Now, much to your surprise, I am not a fake YouTuber who reports on fake things. Everything I'm about to show you is completely cited in what I would call is credible sources. IMDb, which for someone like Rick McCallum has not been that crazy, right? It hasn't been that updated since his departure from Lucasfilm. And of course, right here, this next segment's a very interesting thing. What I'm about to show you is a clip of Rick McCallum talking about a project he's about to work on. Now, there are some very interesting tidbits he says, but I'm going to let your brain jump to its own conclusions. My brain went somewhere entirely, and I do have some proof to back up this information. Let's watch this clip.
And it is changing the dynamic of how we shoot films. I mean, I have a project next year that starts shooting in March, hopefully. And, you know, it does take place all over the thing, but we're using the Epic Engine's Unreal Engine, Epic Games Unreal Engine. So we're creating more of a virtual studio, but we still have to shoot the plates. But a lot of it takes place in the future. It's a concept design. So, you know, those are some of the challenges that even Croatia has to face, you know.
Second question from Jeff Blue. Now that you have wrapped your latest...
So, your brain might have jumped somewhere different, but the mention of the Unreal Engine virtual set really got my brain going. It has been confirmed that they are using the volume, which is the Unreal Engine virtual set, on the Kenobi series. Is that what Rick McCallum's referring to? Well, let's look at his IMDb. So IMDb is a very interesting source for those that do not know. IMDb is a kind of what we can call a catalog of information based on what people are working on or what they will work on or what they have worked on. So what we're going to see is Rick McCallum's IMDb at this current moment. So let me get this pulled up a little bit bigger so we can all see it. Currently, he's working on 3 projects. So one is in post-production, 2 of them are in pre-production. One of them's in pre-production, only one of them has been announced. So he mentions that it is a future series. It is a show that is based in the future. Star Wars is indeed a galaxy far, far away, but we know a lot of it is rooted in what we would consider science fiction future. We've got things in the future in Star Wars that do not exist here, though it is in a galaxy far, far away. I can acknowledge that, and I can totally use that as credit. But these projects that he's working on right now, to our knowledge, based on IMDb, do not seem like the kind that would require any sort of futuristic understanding. So this definitely takes place somewhere in the past. From what it looks like, it looks, let's see, Adrian Brody is in it. And it's currently in post-production. That means they wouldn't be shooting it in March. So that video you just watched was from, I don't know what this is. That video you just watched of Rick McCallum was from November 20th of 2020. He's referring to March, which is the March that just passed. We are currently in July of 2021. We know that Kenobi had just started filming in March of 2021. So let's go back and look at Rick McCallum's IMDb again. Okay. The Bridge of Kono, which is currently in pre-production. Now, this is what he could be referring to. But the thing about it is there's not much information about this show, not enough to make any conclusive, evidence that it's going to be about the future. But the things that I do see is it's filmed in the United Kingdom, which is where Kenobi is also going to be filmed. We don't know much about this. We don't know really who stars in it, what this is even about. We just know that there's a writer. But usually when things are in pre-production, you have a little more information on it. Now, IMDb could be delayed on this information, but the title, The Bridge to Kono, does not sound like it would take place in the future, just based on the title alone. And this last one's the most interesting one, the one that I would say probably has nothing to do with the future. It looks like some sort of race car movie, and it's maybe sponsored by Coca-Cola. But that's all I can say about this as well. We just know Rick McCallum is an executive producer, and it's going to be taking place in the United States, filming in Germany. So what is Rick McCallum working on? Why does anyone even, why do I care so much about this? Well, I can tell you this much. If Rick McCallum is working on a Star Wars, I'm going to cry and scream because I love Rick McCallum, but also comes down to the fact that maybe they're going back to their roots. Okay. So one thing I want to show you, he's got one more mention in this thing, and I will also display a link to the official announcement for Kenobi based on StarWars.com. So this is pretty much what was announced. Now, Rick McCallum is mentioned nowhere in this. Not a single thing of him is mentioned here, but we can read through it just for fun. This article was posted on StarWars.com on March 29th, 2021. At the time, Rick McCallum could very well be making Kenobi, but he is listed nowhere in the credits. The only person listed in here, based on who will be returning to do work, we have Deborah Chow, Kathleen Kennedy, Michelle Rejwan, Ewan McGregor, and Joby Harold. So these are all the people, and the cast director is Carmen Cuba, okay? So these are all the people that are associated with the project. Now, is Rick McCallum working on Kenobi? I don't know, but there are some really interesting coincidences here that I think could give credence to him showing up again. Now, I'm going to show you the very, very last section of this interview that Rick McCallum has, and I'm going to allow you to make up your own mind. He makes an interesting joke, a really interesting joke. And I've always been a big fan of bookends, and maybe Rick McCallum is too. So let's check out this interview.
Second question from Jeff Blue. Now that you have wrapped your latest production, what's next?
I'm looking at...
Or can you say?
I have a very small fishing boat on the island of Broch, and I hope to be there for most of the year. I'll tell you, that's my dream. Now, I've got a couple of projects in the thing. I can't really discuss them, but a couple of exciting things coming up next year, and then I think it's time for me to let go. And no, I have a wonderful company here that's run with two other people, and they're really special, and it's now the baton has to be passed on to them. And, you've got a situation where but that's one of the reasons why we are creating these virtual studios, so that we do have the possibility to shoot on location, virtually inside a stage.
So, is Rick McCallum working on Kenobi? Well, there's some reasons I would say yes and some reasons I would say no. They would have officially announced Rick McCallum coming back if he indeed was working on it. But he could be producing it. He could be ghost producing it. I don't want to feed into the lies and rumors of Star Wars YouTube, but what I do like to do is speculate. And what would make me happy? Seeing Rick McCallum come back. Will he come back? We'll see. But I can tell you this much. It's important to acknowledge that he did say he is going to be working in the Unreal Engine. I don't know at this point if Rick McCallum has any connection to Lucasfilm, but we know that the volume is something that they are heavily trying to push and show. I don't know if Rick McCallum would have gotten his hands on his own version of the volume for his films he's working on, but he's working on a very secretive project, all right? And that's the one that kind of gets me going the most. His IMDb kind of shows nothing too, I would say, heavy, right? Kenobi's a heavy series. He seems pretty excited about this project he may be working on. Is it Kenobi? I guess we'll find out. Remember, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and you should always stay bombad.